Diablo 4. Everybody's been playing it. Everybody's been talking about it. Today, I'm going to talk about it. I've played the beta now for a few days. I've looked into the game. I've gotten 2 characters to the max level. And I've no-lifed at least one of them to where they have pretty much full legendary gear that's almost completely upgraded too. So I wanted to give my thoughts on, in general, the first impressions of the game and just talk about Diablo 4. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, I used to be a huge fan of Diablo 3. I was like the guy, I bought the game by, actually that's not true, I signed my dad up for the WoW annual pass that actually caused a problem with him changing his credit card that he got really mad at me for, and the annual pass included Diablo 3. So that's how I actually got Diablo 3. But anyway, so I got Diablo 3, I played it all night long, and I got to 60, I killed Inferno Diablo, I even killed Hardcore Inferno Diablo, way after Creparium, by the way. It's not as impressive as you'd think. But anyway, I did all that stuff, I got to Paragon 100, I absolutely loved Diablo 3. I had so much fun playing the game. And then Reaper of Souls came out, and I actually had a lot less fun. And so I moved away. I stopped playing Diablo 3 for a very long period of time, played a lot of Path of Exile, did a couple of other ARPGs, learned the error of my ways, went back to Path of Exile, and now I'm playing Diablo 4. So where does the game rank compared to other ARPGs? Is it as complex as Path of Exile? I think the answer to that is no, and I think that is an intentional no. I don't think that it should be as complex as as Path of Exile. Diablo 4 is in general a much more simplified version of PoE. Like, for example, whenever you were playing a Necromancer in PoE, if you want to change from carrion golems to skeletons, you've got to completely, reorient 17 different skill gems, 3 different talent choices, your ascendancy, and then also your enchants on your gear, and then like your corruptions and like all kinds of other stuff, right? But with Diablo, there's a button that says, I thought that was a wasp, it was just one of those stupid things, and there's a button that says, like zombies or skeletons, and you just go click, and it's done. So how much longevity is that going to have? I don't know. I think that's one of my biggest concerns with Diablo 4, really, is that the game has like a surprising amount of simplicity to it. And I do understand the silliness in saying that to an extent, because the beta only goes up to level 25. However, I've played Diablo 3 before, many times, thousands of hours, and I don't really see a lot of complexity in that game either. I don't really see a whole lot of new systems happening in Diablo 4 that's going to be transformative to that in a way that's different for players. Like, I think that you're obviously going to have people that are, they're going to play it and theory craft it, etc. But like, how deep does that theory crafting go? And I think there's a very interesting middle ground that I'm not sure if Diablo 4 is going to be able to really capitalize on, which is the middle ground that it is complex enough for it to be fulfilling for people to overcome the complexities, but simultaneously not as complex as PoE, to the point to where it is just completely impenetrable for a new person. Any new person coming into Path of Exile, I tell them, follow your build guide down to a T, deviate a couple of times, realize the error of your ways, then go back to the build guide, because it's just so complex and so hard to understand. So Diablo 4, I think that really has to hit that sweet spot in between boring levels of just repetitive gameplay that's mindless and effortless with no real investment put into it, and then also not simultaneously be too complex to where people don't understand it like PoE. And I do think that complexity is not necessarily always a good thing. There's a lot of people online that, well, the more complex game and the harder game is always the better game. Not necessarily. And I want to draw a correlation, and it's an ironic correlation, but I think it's very true, between 2 old games, Diablo 2 and Gauntlet. How many of you guys played Gauntlet Legends? You played Gauntlet over on the old arcade machine, Red Wizard Shot the Food. That was me, by the way. And, you just kind of did all that kind of stuff. You love Gauntlet. You played maybe Gauntlet. You played, Diablo 2. I didn't play Diablo 2. And Gauntlet was a great game. In my mind, I think that Diablo 4 should be Gauntlet, and Path of Exile can be D2. There's nothing wrong with being a simpler, easier to understand, more accessible version of a type of game. And I really hope that's what Diablo 4 can do. And I would say, like, if I had to rate the game, I think people always want me to, rate the game. Is it a 5? Is it a 7? Is it a 10? I would rate Diablo 4, the beta experience, I would rate it probably like an 8.5. I don't really feel comfortable saying 9. I don't feel comfortable saying 8 either, so I'm feeling somewhere around 8.5. I don't think it's incredible. It's not changing my life. It's not innovative to the point to where it completely, reorients my thinking on the ARPG genre. However, it's very good at doing what it does. And I think that that's what I want to talk about next, is that the actual gameplay, the combat, the questing, etc. I think the idea of having the less, Blizzard is known all the time for their cinematics, especially back in the day, whenever they were just head and shoulders above everybody else. A lot of other brands have caught up nowadays, but back in the day, Blizzard cinematics were the fucking gold standard. Anyway, so a lot of the Diablo 4 cinematics are not that amazing, they're not that great. But what they are is that they do show your character in the cutscene in a way that is actually pretty fucking good. And I like that. It sounds stupid, but I think I do. And that higher quality of cutscene, I hope they have a couple of them, of course, but it's not necessary for every single end of the act or anything like that. And I've actually really enjoyed just going through the game and seeing more cutscenes, even though they're a little bit lower quality. And I think the overall story of the game, this is, again, Act 1 story. I really liked the story until you got into, the main town and you started doing stuff. I like the idea of being that lone, grungy adventurer that smells like fucking, horse shit, well, literally in this case, and, you're in this village, and then they try to kill you and sacrifice you to a demon, and then you kill them. And I felt like that it scaled up quite quickly in terms of the, the complexities of the game and the scale of the game in terms of the narrative. And I did not really prefer that as much. If I had to say, I'd say that I like the story in Act 1 Diablo 3 more than I like the story in Act 1 Diablo 4. But I think that both of them are fine. They're passable. They still fit that, that notch of it's kind of like this, it's like Pulp Fiction type stuff where it's not this super complex, very, hard to understand characters. No, not really. It's just these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and they're demons, and, there's a few plot twists, but that's about it. I think that's what Diablo is supposed to be. It's not full of nuances like Game of Thrones or something, and I think that's a good thing. Anyway, so the combat. Story is good. Voice acting, incredible. Great job with voice acting. All of the kind of if you were to think of, think about old Game Informer or Nintendo Power Reviews where it says graphics, voice acting, story, all of those numbers, I think for Diablo would be a 10, pretty much, at least a 9. Diablo 4. Absolutely, I think they're very well put together. So combat, let's talk a little bit about combat. I think combat is good. Combat is always something that Diablo 3 was great at, and I think that it was pretty decent in Diablo Immortal whenever you weren't lagging through things. So I expected combat to be good, and I was proven right. I'm very happy about the combat. I think it's fun, and it's pretty enjoyable overall. The itemization and actually, before we talk about itemization, let's talk about bosses. I'm going to be real. So I played a Barbarian, the first character, and I understand people tell me, oh, well, if you play another version of Barbarian, it's going to be super fun. You're just playing a bad build. Yeah, maybe, but bro, I'm going to keep it real. It's not fun chasing mobs that are programmed to run away from you the whole time. It's just not. Am I a bad Barbarian? Am I fake Barbarian? Maybe I am. I played an Archon Wizard in Diablo 3, and after I played Sorcerer, I'm probably going to play a Sorcerer whenever the game comes out. And, maybe that's just, that's a me situation, but I really didn't like how annoying a lot of the fights were as melee. And I felt like, you're fighting a mob and he's standing inside of a pool that you're supposed to move out of. It's just annoying and obnoxious to play against. But, I mean, again, that could just be a me problem, I'm not sure. But as a melee player who then played ranged after that, I certainly enjoyed ranged a lot more. And at the end of the day, right or wrong, I had more fun as ranged. So anyway, combat I think was great. Bosses were really kind of hit or miss. I think that, again, this is Act 1. So, I'm not expecting some, massive, insane level of complexity with bosses. I'm not expecting, Vault in Gate 2. I'm not expecting uber elder. So guess what? The bosses are pretty simple, they're relatively well put together, and I think that they were fine. Going and doing the side quests and the open world nature of the game, sorry about the plane, the open world nature of the game, I actually think flowed really well, and I enjoyed it a lot. The only concern that I have with the open world nature of the game is that there's a lot of like collection type stuff. For example, like you have to get a bunch of different like waypoints. Think about like the Lost Ark Adventurer's Journal if you played that game, and there's like a list of like little chores that you have to do around the world. Click all the statues, open up all the portals, do all the side quests. I will love to do that one time. But if I have to do that every fucking season, I'm going to lose my mind, and I can guarantee you that at a certain point, it will be one of the biggest reasons why I don't play a new Diablo 4 season. I don't find it to be fun to repeat the same, clicking on the same statues, or even if they randomize their locations, I still don't find it fun. It's fucking boring. It's something you do whenever the game's new and you just want to explore the game, but after you've done that a couple of times, you've kind of, that has worn off its excitement. So I do hope that they change that and they don't make you repeat activities like that so much. And now that we're talking about seasons, I guess we'll talk a little bit more about itemization and how complex those items are going to be. So it seems like with Diablo 4, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing a combination of having rares that are, like 5 affix rares, and then you can put legendary powers onto them. It seems like that will probably be the meta, unless the legendary power is like extremely powerful in terms of like a binary functionality. Then you would probably want to have the solid legendary, because transferring the powers, I think, makes them weaker in some cases. But anyway, the itemization I think is okay, but I don't really find it to be particularly interesting. And maybe this is just me, but a lot of the different bonuses that I got, I never really got this bonus and was like, wow, this is fucking amazing, I'm doing so much more damage. I just was like, okay, cool, now I have this and my abilities do more damage. And I think, again, this is very much probably an issue of the beta, but I do remember back in Diablo 3, and I think a lot of you guys who have played Path of Exile or even WoW remember how good it feels to get like that fucking Omega Bis item, or like to get something that's just build defining. You go from, like being able to just be able to do it, to being able to do it without even looking at the screen, or being able to not even have a chance to being able to do it easily. And I remember in Diablo 3, like I would get like a ring or a pair of gloves. I think gloves were like one of the best ones, that would have like, my main damage stat, critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and attack speed all on my fucking gloves. And it's like, oh my god, I am a god now. And I could feel my character play better. And I hope that Diablo 4 gives you that ability to do it, because I think that's one of the best things about ARPGs, is to feel your character getting more powerful and to feel those cool things that you're able to get. And I just really hope Diablo 4 is able to capture that in the context of it being a much more simplistic game. And you're getting so many uniques as like a level 25. I don't know if this is increased for the beta or not. I worry that you're going to be playing the game, and within the first 10% of like the first day or two of playing the game, you will have obtained like 80 to 90% of the functionality of your build, and then after that you're just searching for upgrades for that build. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I could see that being kind of, it's like a one and done type situation. You play the game for a few days each season and then that's it. But I can't really see myself coming back and playing future seasons if the itemization isn't a little bit more complex and I don't have a little bit more agency over controlling it. You're able to do a few things with the items, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, especially in Season 5 of Diablo 4 or Season 11 of Diablo 4. I don't really see myself coming back and enjoying that same type of itemization and build control. I just feel like it would be it's very much on rails. I like playing games where I can effectively play a character and make it so OP that it feels like I'm doing something that I shouldn't be able to. And I don't know if Diablo 4 is going to give you enough tools to be able to do that. So that's in general the way that I feel about the itemization. It's not amazing. It's not awful, but it is what it is, I guess. So next thing is going to be, like, again, I'll talk a little bit more about the open world content and the MMO nature of the game. I heard from a number of people that
Diablo 4 really felt like much more of an MMO than an ARPG. And I think that, I mean, as somebody who's an MMO player, I think this is great. I'm very happy about this. And I went through and I played Diablo 4. I interacted with other players. It was seamless. They were never annoying. They never made my experience worse. And overall, I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And I like the idea of going into town and seeing other players. And, you know, I hate to say it, but Diablo Immortal did this too. And the truth is that it was really fun in Diablo Immortal too. So I'm really glad to see them add that same functionality into Diablo 4 and make the game feel a little bit more open and allow you to interact with other people. You can, I think, inspect them, look at their gear, which is, I think, super important in an ARPG. And I think overall, the open world aspects of the game, the world boss and everything, I think it's really cool and I like it a lot. I can see how some people that were purists of the game wouldn't have the same opinion, but for me, I think it's fucking great. So anyway, that's some of the main feelings that I have about Diablo 4. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'd really want to go through. Obviously, you know, like a lot of intangibles, things like graphics, things like the menus, etc. I think all that stuff is fine. There's nothing really bad about it. It's good. It's definitely passable. There are a lot of people that have been negative about Diablo 4 because, you know, it doesn't make them feel the same way that Diablo 3 or Diablo 2 did. I think that in a lot of cases, that's probably a product of its time, and I'm not necessarily sure that you can have any game that'll make you feel that way again. But if you do find one, please let me know too, because I'd love to have that feeling again. Diablo 4 didn't really do that for me either, which is why it's not some sort of like a 10. Again, this is not Elden Ring, okay? It's not the, you know, greatest level of innovation in ARPGs since Path of Exile. But it's a good, solid game. It seems fun, and it seems like Diablo isn't really trying to compete as much with Path of Exile. They're trying to broaden the scope of what the ARPG genre is and appeal to a more casual gamer and a person that wants to be able to go into the game, understand it, and play it without using a bunch of different spreadsheets and looking things up online, at least too much, until they get to the Paragon board, that is. So overall, my feelings on the game are overwhelmingly positive. I'm very happy about it. I think that I'm reserving judgment for a lot of different things like end-game systems, etc. But my main concern with the end game is actually very similar to my concern with the itemization, which is, why would I want to play Diablo 4 Season 6 just to go and run the same dungeons again and again and again? Because Path of Exile has such a great tiering of their progression content. You know, you've got maps, you've got like, I don't know, you've got the boss maps, you've got other bosses, you've got Shaper, Elder, Uber Elder, Sirius, the Conquerors, the Elder Guardians, the Shaper Guardians, like, and there's the Exarch and the Eater of Worlds, and there's all these different like benchmarks, Cortex. There's all these benchmarks that the player can put themselves up against and then try to overcome this challenge. And I'm very concerned that Diablo 4 won't have that, and the endgame won't feel as fulfilling as the Path of Exile endgame does. That's my biggest actual concern with the game, is that the Diablo 3 endgame, I played a few seasons in Diablo 3, even in Reaper of Souls, it's fucking boring. All you do is run rifts. That's it. It's like, imagine in PoE, if the only thing that you could do is run tier... Well, you could just run infinitely tiered maps. So like, instead of running a tier 15 or tier 16 map, you're running like a tier 27 map. And if you get hit once, you're dead, but you can kill everything in like 2 hits because you're built completely for damage. That's basically the way that Diablo 3 rifts work. I mean, not exactly, but you can see kind of what I mean. Think about, there's no other activities. There's nothing else to do. All you do is you just run rifts, and that's it. I find that to be so boring. And that's my biggest concern with Diablo 4, is that the end game will just simply be boring. It will be repetitive, not fun, not innovative. There won't be benchmark bosses, there won't be capstone challenges, and I really hope that doesn't happen, because I really want to enjoy the game. I've had a lot of fun playing the beta. I'm probably going to go play it right now. But the truth is that level 25 beta doesn't really give you a lot of insight into the end game, and with a game like Diablo, you're going to be through this type of content in like 2 or 3 days. So unless you only expect people to play the game 2 or 3 days, what do you do after that? Well, that's what really matters. So we'll just have to wait and see what that actually looks like. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I wanted to go out and talk about this, but yeah, thanks for watching. I'd be curious to hear your comments and thoughts about Diablo 4. I'm kind of curious myself, actually, because I've read very, very extreme opinions of both things, and I'm not really sure exactly where people's sentiment lies, but that's mine. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.